Thanks for coming to listen. I'm Emily Williams. I'm the Centre Manager for the South Yorkshire Sustainability Centre. Before we jump into our SYSC pitch, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time setting the scene and outlining the challenges that our research centre has been set up to respond to. So sustainability challenges are wicked problems. By wicked problems, you kind of mean problems that have low certainty, low consensus, that are complicated, that sit within multiple systems. So much like that picture of a ball of wool, you pull it, it's tangled, it's knotty, it's difficult. I think they contrast against tame problems, which are sort of evident, attainable, and self-contained. So one example from our centre is if you're considering sustainable transport and trying to achieve a modal shift from private vehicles to public or active transport, you're not going to achieve that by just putting more cycle lanes in. You will need to look at a range of connected problems such as socio-cultural associations of the car, safety, perceptions of safety, school regimes, consumption cultures. I could go on, but I won't. So it's complicated. On top of the complexity, time is not on our side. So there's an urgent need to decarbonise, an urgent need to adapt, an urgent need to restore, and an urgent need to reduce inequality. So this combination of complexity and urgency means that more than ever it's essential that we all work together within universities and outside of universities, and that we need integrated and interconnected responses that take a system-level view of the problems that we're trying to address. And that needs collaboration across sectors, disciplines and organisations. And we need mechanisms for managing trade-offs. So, for instance, to meet all of the Sustainable Development Goals, we must carefully balance the need, for example, decent work and economic growth and zero hunger with life on land, life below water, and achieving responsible consumption and production. But as this 2020 report by the Civic University Network highlighted, higher education institutions need to do more. I think some of the highlights was that pointed to a lack of joined-up approaches to climate action, the need to cluster all of our strengths across institutions to meet the needs of our partners. And moreover, the report also highlighted the absence of just transition for most climate initiatives and strategies. So that's the challenge, the context. Enter SYSC as one example of a response, I suppose, to these crises. So I think our elevator pitch follows. We are a place-based response. A few kind of structural points. We are a collaboration between the University of Sheffield, Sheffield Hallam University and the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. We've been funded by the Research England Development Fund to trial new partnership and knowledge exchange models. We are currently in year 3 of 4 and fundraising to try and ensure that the centre continues beyond February 2026. And our core mission statement is to realise a just and sustainable future for communities, places and businesses of South Yorkshire. Specifically, we're aiming to support the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority's ambition to hit net zero by 2040. So what do? We have 3 strategic aims. Firstly, to convene the region's kind of intellectual resources, and by that I mean not just academic, non-academic and academic resources around emission reduction and sustainability. Our second strategic aim is to test and trial what our bid called novel knowledge exchange approach. So I think this diagram just attempts to explain what we mean by novel knowledge exchange. So if you see step 1, we aim to work closely with regional partners to understand where there's a need for academic research. What are their challenges or their knowledge gaps? And then things where academics can plug that gap and help accelerate their progress to net zero. Then, having hopefully co-created these research questions, we then commission and undertake research. And this should be interdisciplinary, it should be iterative, and it should be co-produced with our partners. So rather than taking an idea, going off and doing the research and then delivering it as a product at the end of that process, it's that throughout that research period, we are working together and iteratively. Finally, it's to deploy the research and the approach, but in ways that have maximum impact. So we're still finding our way through what that means, but rather than just, emailing a report at the end, how do we do something that's a bit more interactive? How do we help our partners embed whatever the research output is in what they do? And then through all of that, I suppose, it's an evaluate and learn process. I think I'll just say we aren't standing saying that we've cracked all of this, but this is what we're trying to achieve. And then our final strategic aim is to support interdisciplinary, system-aware, cross-sectoral research, all in the service of the just transition to net zero. So this image here just shows our way of kind of operationalising a portfolio of research so that it is interdisciplinary. I will attempt to explain just one example because we've got about 25 projects. So if we take our theme 1, which is residential energy and transport systems, I'll just hone in on one sort of run down this matrix structure to give you an idea of how we're trying to do interdisciplinary research. Our project 1.1 is working with CIMCA to look at developing an optimal retrofit deployment model for securing the highest possible carbon savings in South Yorkshire. So how does South Yorkshire retrofit its houses in the order in which gives us the best carbon savings by 2040? That's quite a technical intervention that's led by civil engineering, but to complement this research we've got activities running across the 4 work packages. Work package A looks at resident attitudes towards energy use and low carbon technologies. Retrofit programmes won't be effective if private homeowners refuse to engage. It also won't be effective if everyone turns up the thermostat and uses more energy. Work package B then considers if we're going to do all this retrofitting within the region, how do we do it in a way that creates a local economy that creates good work and jobs for the people of South Yorkshire. Work package C is data-driven solutions, and that looks at, okay, well, if we're going to retrofit in this way, what does that mean for the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority's overall net zero budget? And finally, work package D looks at, well, if we were to do this programme, where are the heat pumps coming from? How sustainable are they? How resilient is the supply chain? And to try and give some consultancy on how this all fits together, how can you make sure this is deliverable? So finally, I guess, what do elevator pitch style, what do we want? Why are we here? Why am I stood up here with a microphone? Firstly, we want to share the model and approach with other regions and universities. That's a key component of our centre. As I said, we are a pilot, so we need to go out and say, this is what we've done. Does anyone else want to take it, run with it, and maybe have a 2.0? And then as part of that, I think being honest and sharing our lessons that we're collating over this period, the good, the bad, and the interesting. I've got a few examples, but come and speak to us on our stall if you want to talk about this more. I think what we're finding at the beginning of year 3 is we've got a substantive team of 5 professional services team members, which gives us more resource than I think average academic projects. And we are finding that is helping us convene regional stakeholders, but also build strong generative relationships with our core partners that are beginning to go beyond the transactional, beyond the, do you want to sign up for this bid? Can you give us match funding? Can you participate? So we are seeing some evidence of that. However, on the flip side, we are also experiencing some difficulties developing the novel knowledge exchange approach that we just looked at. I think A, we're all used to behaving in quite a transactional way, and B, universities and public sector organisations are time and resource poor, which forces us to prioritise the more transactional activities. So I think that is something that we're working through, and given the, I suppose, funding problems within the public sector, that is just a reality that we're having to try and navigate. But then on the sort of interesting side, I think we've had Sheffield Hallam University and the University of Sheffield academics working together now for nearly 2 years, and we are seeing that independent relationships have been established with those academics. They're coming up with some interesting projects without us necessarily having to create the spaces for that. And really the aim is to have an institutionally agnostic pathway that gets experts together around particular themes. And finally, I think we are here to learn from similar initiatives and would love to hear from anyone that's also trialling new partnership and knowledge exchange models on any topics, not just sustainability. So thank you very much.